And it's Sunday night. We're back. The red, white, and blue football therapy session. Where do we start? I've got to say, because actually, I have a weekend where we started with Ollie out. We could have had Pep out. We could have had Nuno out. We could have had who knows shaking it all about by the end of it. So thankfully, I've got two other people with me tonight, and maybe we'll offer a little bit of therapy to anyone who actually needs it, because it's been one of them weekends. And after some acca busting results yesterday, I'll tell you what, I might need a bit of therapy as well. So, Stephen, Charlie, welcome.
How are we doing, John?
Yeah, really good, really good. I'm only really good because Everton don't play until tomorrow. So I'm in that position where I think it only happens once every now and again, but it's quite nice when it gets to the Monday night game, and you know that on a Sunday night and a Saturday night you've not had to think about how much Everton have let you down. So it's
and I'm sure it's all the better, John, the fact that Liverpool dropped 2 points at home as well.
To be honest, Stephen, it wasn't because actually I'd actually set myself up with. I'll do this. He's nicking. Hey, excellent. There we go. Excellent. So
we thought you'd join us today, Nick.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Shall we change plan then, John, and start with Tottenham? Since Nick's here.
I think since Nick's here, that's the only place we can start.
Welcome in, Nick.
And I think, to be honest, I think Nick needs more therapy than anybody tonight, because it is just, you're looking at what we said last week about United and how disjointed they were, how they've been absolutely picked apart, and yet they turn up at Spurs, and suddenly it's that's really good. Yeah. I've read a few things. Yeah, I've read a few things in the past half an hour, Nick, and I think it's basically a matter of when, and I reckon they're probably trying to avoid tonight's papers, but I think it's the manner of it. United were for the taking yesterday, and actually, you would have thought after United being on the back foot and being on the papers all week, as being under pressure, they drop Pogba, which is probably a masterstroke. They play a really defensive system. They play, was it the oldest start, the 11? yeah. I think Nick. I think everyone's like that. I think we all should just get.
Hey, Sarah, welcome in.
Thanks, Sarah. Let's all just chuck a CV in, because to be honest, where'd you go? Where do you actually go after a game like that? Spurs stank. They were just absolutely awful, and they certainly did not epitomise the type of performance that you want from any team. But also, let's get a bit of reality. They're still 8th in the league, and I can't really think, short of Man United last week, why press the panic button now? I'm sure, Nick, you're going to come back and you're going to tell us exactly why Nuno needs to go, apart from the fact they never had a shot on target for the whole game against United yesterday.
He's busy, John. He's busy. Yeah. He's doing the interview now, look.
Oh, brilliant.
I was going to say, what is a CV? It must be the interview, right? Application or whatever.
Yeah. It's an old Latin term, curriculum vitae, something like
that. I like Nuno Espirito. I think he's a good manager. I've never hid behind that. I've always been that's my view.
Yeah.
10 games in. Really? Are we really looking at sacking a manager after 10 games? I know he wasn't. I know it's well publicised. He wasn't Spurs' first choice. And in fact, he was probably way down the pecking order if the truth be known. Mm-hmm. But once you've selected the guy and you give the guy that contract, after 10 games, I know what Nick's view will be on this. He'll be like, no, he needs to go. And I get that, as you're a Spurs fan, you're going to have that passion for it. But I'm looking, be careful, because look at Watford. Watford changed their managers sometimes twice in a season. you know. And do you really want to get down the road where you're doing knee-jerk decisions? You've got a manager, back him. You know, I know the results aren't great, and I didn't see the game yesterday, Charlie. I didn't see it. But to not have a shot on goal or a shot on target is not acceptable. Not for a club like Spurs. They should be doing that, particularly the way Liverpool showed the week before how they can be distributed. You know, so it isn't good enough. I'm not sitting here defending the guy. I'm just thinking, are you heading down a dark path here by doing that? I don't know.
What's your view, Charlie, from across in the States?
Well, just to touch upon what Steven said, we showed them how to dismantle Man United, but there was already like pre-dismantled Man United. You know, they had issues of their own where I think, you know, supposedly Ollie went and talked to a lot of people during that week, and he had some heart-to-hearts with some players. Probably set them straight, saying, "Listen, guys, there's absolutely no way we can keep going the way we're doing. We need to start talking. We need to start passing to each other. I don't care if you guys don't like each other. I don't care if there's ego problems, but we're absolutely not going to win anything until you guys start actually passing to each other, and especially the forwards. They need to work together." And it looks like to their credit, they turned it around this week. To at least be scoring again and to be acting a little bit more like a team. And there's probably no one better to do that against than Tottenham at the moment, who is still grasping. It's like, I think maybe they bench Kane. They were doing so much better without him. Yeah. You know,
it was interesting to see the fans' reaction as well, though, yesterday. And I think there was a couple of times that Kane was actually subjected to some booing from the Spurs fans. Yeah, because he just wasn't. He just was in the wrong place. He was, in a way, he was playing the exact same role that Son was trying to play, and they were getting in each other's way. And rather than being able to play the ball for each other, they were actually in the same space and unable to break down. For basically a back seven that United were playing, because actually United were very, very defensively set up, certainly for the first hour. You know, they said they were playing three at the back, but it's basically three centre-halves in Lindelof, Varane and Maguire. But the midfield had the two holding midfielders, McTominay and Fred, but also the wing-backs were Wan-Bissaka and Shaw, who previously were playing right and left back. And that only left them with Cavani, Ronaldo and Bruno. And so essentially what United did was they basically set up to not concede, see what happened. And actually, I think it actually worked for them, because I think they've been overrun. They were overrun certainly against Liverpool, and then also when they played Leicester, and I think they took Pogba off or something against Leicester, and it just, the balance of the team just shifted so much. And I don't know. I just think Spurs to me should have gone after United yesterday, and they didn't. They were totally on the back foot. There were players on the pitch that didn't know what they were doing, Kane in particular. And I don't know. I honestly don't know where they go from here, because sacking your manager is just not the answer.
I'm interested to know how many tens of millions the price drop from Kane from the beginning of the season to December. He's probably has anyone gone down like 70 million in worth over half a season?
It's strange. I think a couple of weeks ago, or maybe more than a couple of weeks ago, we mentioned this about how Kane's performing and stuff like that. And I think I highlighted in the show was Eden Hazard, you know, when he was touted to Real Madrid and it didn't go through, his performance in that season after just went up a notch. So his value stayed. In fact, it probably climbed a bit.
Yeah.
But Kane's not doing it. And Nick's got a couple of comments here that I want to highlight and get a dialogue with Nick, because you're putting the stuff over, Nick. So I want to get that in with you. And he's talking about Kane a little bit there as well in one of the comments. I didn't see the game yesterday. I was expecting Tottenham to beat United. I thought Tottenham would have beat them and go at them, and to see them get beat by that scoreline was a bit of a shock for me. But looking at Kane, I don't know. I didn't see the game, but looking at Kane in terms of what he did with West Ham the week before, in terms of that goal, he just stood on the guy's shoulder. All he had to do was stick his right foot out in front of the guy, and he's stopping that goal going in. And he didn't do it. His body language isn't right. Yeah. We'll just go back to Nick's comments here. Talking about Nuno here on this comment. You know, with the man as well out of his depth, wrong decisions around starting 11 subs at the wrong times, the same old delusion. I was proud with how they played. I think that comment can come along across as delusional, but I think what he's doing is he's protecting the players, isn't he? You know, which is a good thing. Yeah. You know what? You had Mourinho before that who just threw them under the bus. He's gone he's the total far.
But you've got to look, Stephen, and this is the common link between United and Spurs. Both of whom have, United have had to rebuild considerably, get the fans back on side, get the players back on side after Mourinho had basically torn apart internally the structures within the club. He did the same at Spurs. And then as he walks away, you're expecting in 10 games all that damage, all that collateral damage of having Mourinho at your club to suddenly disappear and to suddenly be, well, that's fine, we'll just play because we're Spurs and we're bigger than Jose Mourinho. But I don't feel that there's still that lingering aftertaste, if you want. And United are still struggling to get rid of it. Spurs are in the midst of it. And they need to understand that Mourinho effect, it lingers for far too long. And I really fear for him. You know, I think Nuno, I like Nuno. Like you said, I like Nuno.
Yeah, I like
Charlie's on the M&M's, that's it. Trick or treaters in there, Charlie's house tonight, we're getting nothing. Charlie's eating a lot.
But like Nick's saying, he is probably out of his depth a little bit. It's probably a bit of a too big of a job for him, to be fair. He's done a great job at Wolves, but I think sometimes you forget just where Wolves was when he took over. Yeah. You know, because he did such a great job at Wolves and got them, he got to did he not go quite far in the Europa League or something a couple of seasons ago?
Yeah.
You know, he went quite far, didn't he? He done a really good job, and you're thinking, oh, this is a guy who can go on to manage one of the top teams like Spurs.
But he needs to be given time. He needs to be.
So he's saying, Nick's saying he's lost the dressing room, and this is the thing where I've got about Kane. Kane has quite openly shown that with his performance, acting like a brat. Do you know what, Nick? I'm not gonna disagree with you. I think Kane's body behaviour, body language, and his mannerisms and his effort is quite disgusting. Really, it's unprofessional. You know, he's a professional footballer. He gets paid an awful lot of money every week to go out and do the job he's doing. So he should show some kind of professionalism here. And he's going to lose you a lot of money as well. Because like Charlie just alluded to before, how much is his value now diminishing?
And worse over, he's costing me points in my fantasy league too. So.
I did notice that, Charlie.
I came in dead last this week. I'll admit it.
Our good friend Mr. Average beat you in our league as well, so that was.
I lost to Mr. Average.
You didn't quite come in the dead last, Charlie. Dead last between us three. But you didn't quite come in the dead last in the whole league. Harrison's got minus 15 points.
How did that happen? I saw that. There must be some glitch somewhere. There's no way he did.
He made 6 transfers and had to give 4 points for each one.
Oh, really?
I think he's shuffling his pack on a weekly basis, is Harrison, because he played his free hit the week before, and then he played the other chip the week before that, and he's like, he's got nowhere to go, so he's just basically renewing his team each week. So thanks, Harrison, because I was head to head against you this week. So I appreciate that greatly.
And Harrison, here's an internal joke. How are you doing? Right. Shut up. I've still got Wang to play tomorrow in fantasy.
So have I.
I'm beating the missus. And she's getting beat.
You've had a good week there. You've had a good week there, Stephen. So.
Yeah, well, Charlie's getting beat by Mr. Average at the minute. If he doesn't pick up the points tomorrow, he's got beat by Mr. Average tomorrow.
I don't know if I have anyone playing tomorrow.
Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny on the week where he crows in the messages? You know, look at me, look what I'm doing.
I knew it was coming. Yeah.
Let's get back. Come on. Let's get back. Let's think about our poor old friend Nick here. Nick's
comment in the chat is actually really interesting because it is still that same squad that was there under Poch. And I still think that they are still in shock about him being bundled out the back door in a way. And it was quite unceremonious at how Poch had put his cards on the table. He wanted investment into the team to rebuild and actually to be able to put Spurs into that Champions League slot. And he told them he wanted money. Levy and the board decided, nah, we're not doing that. We're not buying into that. And so Poch went. And so I feel that still is the issue that Spurs have not addressed. And I think the board themselves are still sort of, they're paying the price for having that short-term thought of, we're not paying a lot of money out on new players that Pochettino wanted. When actually he was exactly right. And he's been proven to be 100% correct because he knew that the current squad of players on the whole were not good enough to challenge at that top echelon of Champions League football.
This is it. How much does it go down to the team, guys? How much is it to the team? And I get the not having the fighting spirit and not being up for the game is purely down to the manager because he hasn't got the players up for it.
Yeah.
But how much of it is down to the manager and how much of it is down to the players? Because Nick's saying in here, Højbjerg has pretty much said he's had enough, right? You've got Kane's, lack of trying, shall we say, for the Son, I've watched Spurs a few times now, and the only player I ever see really busting the guts is Son.
Yeah.
And the young lads that come in. So you got the kids in there.
Here's their MVP right now.
In the go. That has an experience. That isn't going to get you up the table and challenge with the Champions League spots. So how much is it down to the manager? And how much is it down to the team? Because really, you've got a problem, right? So I want Nick to get involved in this one, right? So you've got a problem. Spurs aren't performing, right? What is the problem? Is it just purely down to the manager? Or is it something else as well? Because yes, I get it. I do like Nuno, and I'm not gonna stop saying that. I do like him. Mm-hmm. However, I do get that he hasn't got the experience of managing a top team like Spurs, right? And challenge because Spurs challenging for Europe. They need to be in that Champions League. That's where they need to be going for. And then moving on to challenging for the title. That's where Spurs need to be. So yeah, I get it. He's not got the experience for that. I do think he's got the ability to do it, but he needs time. He needs support. You know. So I'd like to know, from a Spurs fan point of view, Nick, is it purely the manager or is it the players as well?
Can I take us back a week? Because we talk about where clubs are at and we talk about the situation that's being created where managers are put under so much pressure. And it appears, a lot of it does appear to be media driven as like, let's see who we can get sacked this week. But what was interesting at Man United, and I know Ole got a load of abuse last weekend, they spent a bit of time, but then it actually came out, Ronaldo came out during the week, but Harry Maguire came out. And this was interesting because I can't see Harry Kane doing the same thing for Nuno. But Maguire's quote, and I've got it up here, as players, we let the management down, we let the staff down, and we let the club down. But most importantly, we let the fans down. We know we've got to improve, and I can assure you we're doing everything we can and everything day in, day out to make sure we improve on these performances. And I'm sure we'll come through this difficult period and kick on again. That's your captain. That's your club captain coming out and saying that and actually taking it onto the players' shoulders as to where the blame lies. And for all I don't rate Maguire as a centre-half, he went up in my estimation as a captain. And I actually felt that was what was needed to take some of the heat away from Ole, but actually to understand the fact that the players needed to have a reaction. At Spurs, I feel that that's the bit that's missing. And I think they just want to, and I think Nick's absolutely right. The club is toxic.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Nick there. I think Levy is notorious at it. in being a hard negotiator. My job actually outside of this and what I do for a living is about negotiating contracts as well. Yeah. So I understand when you come across someone who's like that, who's really hard to deal with, you tend not to deal with them. You tend to go, well, I'm not going to deal with you no more. You're just too hard, you know. And he is known for being a tough negotiator, which, you know, Spurs have benefited from in the past. But is he now at the point of stopping them being able to get the players that they want in? You know. So really, Nick, the manager's not the problem here. You need to go higher up. It's higher up.
Yeah, and I think the fans came out with that yesterday.
Yeah,
the fans were singing "Levy out," and I think that and I think there's got to be that understanding. You know, I think Nick's line there, the club being toxic, and I think that's you think of how much money they've invested in the most amazing football stadium, but you look at that, you look at the starting 11 that Spurs are playing, you look at the team that, you know, the names that are playing for Spurs. You know, there's not many of them players there, with probably with the exception of Son and Kane, that would possibly, you know, nobody, none of the other Premier League clubs have come sniffing after the likes of, was it Skip Dyer, Ben Davis, the lad Romero must be wondering what he's got himself involved in as well. And I don't know. There's just like you could go on forever. I think Spurs look 8 or 9 players short of being a half decent team. When Pochettino was there, I thought there were probably 2 or 3 players, and 2 or 3 players short of actually being able to push on towards doing well in Champions League, not towards just doing well in the Premier League. It's just so telling that they're just way short, and you know, I don't see why Nuno has to take the blame for this.
No. I'm going to come back to Nick in a minute, but Sarah's just come out with something there. I'm the levy of our professional world, Stephen. Yes, I have been called some uncharacteristic names in the dealings I've done in my life. Yes, but yeah, I see Nick's going with the players as well. You know, so we know. So we just had the chat now. This is a therapy session. So now we know, yes, your manager, he's a good manager, but he's out of his depth. He's not experienced enough. Yeah, get that. But you've also got a chairman that's quite toxic. And you've got a whole raft of players there that need to go. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players that need to go.
Yeah.
You've got to give the guy more than 10 games for me. You've got to give him more than 10 games. Hey, it could fall flat on its face and go horribly wrong. However, going 10 games in, getting a new manager in, the new manager, who's going to go and want that job? You've just sacked the manager after 10 games. Am I going to be sacked after 10 games? You know, if I'm going for a job there, I'm thinking, am I going to get sacked after 10 games? It doesn't go right. You know, these aren't my players, and ultimately, they're not Nuno's either. They're not Nuno's players.
No,
you know, they're not his team. But we'll see.
Well, let's take the other one as well, Stephen. It's just like, was it Fonseca's been mentioned again because he was further up the list, and they bypassed him for the job originally. Now, Fonseca, if people are not aware, has been linked with a Newcastle job in the past week. But like Fonseca himself is Portuguese. He's plays a similar style of football to Nuno. And so does he come in? Does he get 10 games and suddenly, like, end of February, it's not working. It's not working. We need to change again. Where'd you go? What do you do? I don't know. I don't honestly know the answer. And when you, and you know something, Nick, I can't actually disagree with you about what you said about Leeds, and actually, it would be scandalous if it were to be the case. But like, you look at
Leeds relegated.
Yeah,
if Leeds end up getting relegated, I don't see Tottenham getting relegated.
I can't. They've got 15 points on the board.
Look, they're not getting the right results. They're not. Things aren't quite right. Yeah. But I don't see you struggling to the point where you're going to be in relegation. You might struggle to get a Europa League place. Do you know what I mean? That's where I'm at with it. Champions League probably seems a little bit far off. And I don't want to mention this team, Nick, because I know you're trying to get your therapy. I don't want to set you down the wrong way, but Arsenal are turning the corner, you know, and if any team's looking like they're going to break that top four, it's going to be Arsenal at the minute.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
They're definitely on a good run.
Yeah, but let's take it back six months, because Arsenal were in that same position when Arteta was having a real torrid time. He just, you think back to the January transfer window when he got rid of Ozil, and so he was then left. He dropped Lacazette. He wasn't playing Aubameyang. He was trying to play some of the younger lads. He was getting criticised week in, week out. So everyone was saying the job was too big for him, and yet suddenly they seem to be playing very nice football, which is obviously what Arsenal fans want to see, and as do many other people. But they look organised. They look everything that you would expect from an Arteta team, and I think that's where your persistence and your lack of willingness to just turn around and say, "Oh, we need a change." It's certainly paid off for Arsenal. So
I'd agree with that as well, Nick. As well, Liverpool did benefit. We had a horrible time where we just come out of Europe, and as a Liverpool fan, you see that as probably the worst thing that could happen to your club, because you see your club as being a European team. But I'll be honest with you, it did help us, and it helped Chelsea as well, to just get back to basics. And I think that's what you need to do, is get back to basics. But it comes down to the players need to buy into that, and I just don't see the players buying into what you're doing at the minute.
I totally agree with that. And do you know something, Stephen? I actually feel that European distraction for any club. I know it'd probably be laughable when I mention this, but like when Everton played Europa League, and it's just shocking because it just totally added as a complete sort of, like I say, distraction is the only way I can describe it. Because you're building up to Europe, and then suddenly you're playing Premier League usually on a Sunday at 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock. It's all weird times and stuff like that. Burnley suffered in the same way when they had their European season, and clubs take a long time to recover from that. And it doesn't matter how big your wage bill is. It does actually help if you actually take a step back. I was delighted. I was delighted last season because Everton didn't qualify for that European. I can't even. Was it Mickey Mouse League or whatever it was? It was that. Don't even know what it's called.
Yeah, they brought a new competition out again. They went from three. They got rid of the Cup Winners' Cup in the 90s.
Yeah,
and they went down to two tournaments, and now they've gone back to three. For me, here's my view on like the stuff like that new one that's coming. I don't know the name of it myself, and the Europa League is the teams that tend to go in there are the teams that are trying to find the way up the table through consistency. So you'll find that you'll climb through the rally. Yeah. So you're doing that, and then all of a sudden you haven't got the squad of the top teams who are in Europe all the time, but you're expected to go to much further places like Russia. It's further away. It's you're playing in the middle of the day or the middle of the night because of the time differences, and it's just too much. If they just, I don't know what they do. For me, I'd just get rid of it and just have the Champions League. That'd be the only tournament. But I don't know. That's not fair on the teams who want to compete in these other tournaments.
Money wise too,
it's money. Unfortunately, yeah. I can see that. I can understand the fact that it is, and also there's some teams that have become very good. Lesser teams in Europe have really sort of pushed on. I think of a team like Fiorentina and stuff like that. And you look at Villarreal, where Unai Emery is. You look at what they've actually put in, and they've been very, very difficult to beat in Europe. And then they've taken that form and actually become better in their domestic league as well. That seems to be very difficult for people or teams in the Premier League to actually do. And it's maybe one of those where, you maybe have a little look and you have a look at the stats, and that's maybe something for next week. I'll have a look at some of these teams that qualify for Europe that had a stinker the following year.
Just before we move off Spurs, right? Who have they got? Who have they got next week? What's the fixtures? What's the fixtures for next week for Spurs?
I think the bound to be playing Everton, aren't they? It's just I can see this coming. I can feel it in me water. It's just like they've got all of these things. Yeah, they got they're away Everton.
Everton, it is.
I knew it.
So all of this flack. Nuno stays, and then they put 4 past Everton next Sunday. And it's like, what problem is there? Nuno, new guy comes in, and it's like, oh, you thrash Everton. End of problem. There you go. It's just I just knew without even looking. Knew without looking.
Yeah.
Oh, just terrible.
That was uncanny there.
Oh,
yeah, so I don't know, but look, boards don't meet this late in the day to discuss a manager's job to keep him. I fear for that. I think he's gone. I think he's probably sacked. I think Nick said earlier on, there's a thing come up on Twitter, rumor on Twitter.
I think so. I think it depends on how reliable your source is on Twitter, but I feel there's an undercurrent there, and I think people are very aware that there is a lot going on.
You don't discuss someone's future unless you are seriously considering of getting rid. Yeah. But if they are, so what they'll be discussing, I think what they'll be discussing is, right, okay, we get rid of them. What do we do now? Where do we go? What do we put in place?
Is Conte available now?
Conte's available, yeah. Yeah. I thought he was Newcastle bound at one point. Right. You never know. Yeah. You never know. And it could be that Conte was higher up the list anyway. Oh, our more preferred managers in place now. Well, this is a good time to axe and get the one in we want. You don't know.
Yeah. I think there's a load on the go there, and I think it's quite difficult. The managers who are out of a job tend to be the ones that are overlooked, and it's just like it's the ones who are in a job. Paulo Fonseca seems to be one. Conte gets mentioned.
Just say Fat Sam's available.
Yeah, and actually, do you know something? I actually think he'd do a decent job somewhere at the minute. And I might. In fact, it might be the right time to move on from Spurs, because actually, Newcastle or Manchester?
Manchester United. Let's talk Manchester United, because they must have thought all the Christmas come at once to be able to get that result. Yeah. After the drubbing they got the week before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ollie out, Ollie in. It's like the old okie dokie, isn't it?
It is the okie dokie. And also looking towards next weekend, Man United play City as well. And that in itself is going to be quite a tasty way of just seeing how decent United are. And I quite fancy United to play exactly the same system.
Yeah. And there's anything wrong with it, Spurs are the problem. Look, there's problems within that club. I think you've highlighted it, Nick, from your chairman down to the players. I don't think there's one single thing that needs to change with Spurs to get it right. I think there's a number of changes up and down the chain. Unfortunately, if you're talking Levy, well, who is it in the club that makes that decision? You're getting less and less people talking to each other to make that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's a good call. Yeah, I think as well. I'm going to bring Newcastle into this, because actually, if Nuno becomes available, I would say Nuno is a brilliant fit for Newcastle United.
Definitely.
And as somebody who could galvanise not just the players that are there, but also sort of getting the fans up for it. And I think he'd be a really good fit there. Although,
but Newcastle wants to invest a heck of a lot of money now, right? And if he's proven he can't handle the top of the league at Tottenham, is Newcastle really going to want him trying to do the same thing at because Newcastle wants to be top 4, obviously, and they're going to have the money to spend now.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if they're going after Conte already.
It was really interesting. I listened to. There was a wonderful piece on the radio midweek.
Myself.
Radio 5 Live with Mark Chapman, and what they were talking about is Newcastle need to look in stages at how they develop, and how, first of all, they need somebody to come in and ensure that they don't get relegated. You know, Conte's not going to turn up there. The lad from Ajax, Ten Hag, is not going to turn up because they're all fearful of being relegated and having their CV ruined, basically because they took a job that was with the wrong time. And that's where Big Sam is actually ideal for Newcastle at the minute, because he would go in, he knows the club, he would actually, if he got the fans on side, which I doubt he would, because I don't think the fans would really fancy Big Sam going back there. But he's the one who could actually do that the first job of steadying the ship and actually making them into a club that will stay in the Premier League, and then you can move on. And I think Spurs are in a position that's completely different, where the Spurs are trying to run before they can actually walk. And similarly, Man United took that step with Solskjaer, where they've given him time, they've backed him. But they're obviously, you know, even earlier this week, there was a lot of talk on Monday that he was going to get sacked, and they've not gone down that route of Man United. And I think that's fair play to them for doing it. You know, and I think we're looking. I watched the Leeds Norwich game today, and it was quite disheartening in a way, because Daniel Farke was getting quite a lot of abuse from the Norwich fans, because he's got the lad Gilmore from Chelsea on loan who's refusing to play him for some bizarre reason, and Norwich are still underperforming. 2 points all season, and we're in the last day of October. And you're actually thinking Norwich are just completely dead and buried. Where did Norwich turn to? Because they've actually had a manager who's, when they've gone down into the Championship, has actually got them promoted again. And it just seems to be a mental block now that they seem to have as regarding staying, performing in the Premier League. So, and on a similar tilt, because I've watched quite a bit of football this weekend without thinking of it. I did actually see the Burnley game as well, and Burnley playing Brentford, and I think a lot of people Brentford have had a fantastic start to the season, and I think from a fantasy football point of view, that's been really quite refreshing to see. Their goalkeeper has picked up an absolutely horrific injury. He's going to be out for about 8 to 10 months, and yesterday, Burnley just took Brentford apart, and it was great, because actually you begin to see Burnley have actually found a little bit of a better way of playing.
Breaking news just in.
Oh, here we go. Come on, news just in. There you go. So we need drum roll for this, Nick.
They hire Arsene Wenger.
Yeah. You can imagine it, couldn't you? You can imagine it. I was just like, he's going to leave us hanging, isn't he?
He is. Sky Sports website, there's not a day. It's still there, still considering. But Sky Sports are always the last to report anything anyway. The crap. Yeah.
It'll be all over Twitter. Don't you worry. That's it.
Oh yeah, it will be. It will be. I'm expecting it. Steve Bruce.
Hey, from down the pub.
Steve Bruce is coming.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I know. It's gonna be Fat Sam. Like, come on.
I love it. I'll tell you what, Nick.
Dave from down the pub has agreed a 3-year deal to take over the reins of Spurs with a further extension should be made the tough.
I'm going to say the whole point of this on a Sunday night is football therapy, and I think for Nick, you've just hit the nail on the head there. Your therapy for this week is complete. Next week it'll be Dave out, won't it? It'll just be like, sack Dave. Dave's no good for us. We only scored 5 against Everton. But yeah, I was talking about Burnley because actually I got a real soft spot in a way for Burnley because again it does what it says on the tin, doesn't it? Sean Dyche, you know what you're going to get with him, and actually they've uncovered. There's a player they played up front yesterday who I'm inclined to call Cornet, but I'm sure he's foreign. It's probably got a much more fancy name than that, Cornet or something like that. But tell you what, lad knows where the back of the net is, and that could be another find that will just keep them pushed up the table at the expense of a load of other teams. Well, look again. Leeds are still in trouble. Watford, despite sacking the manager and deciding that Ranieri was the answer to all of their problems, they're still in problems. I watched the Villa game earlier. Villa were rotten. Villa were absolutely stinking.
And they're not playing Ings anymore.
No, I've got him as my centre forward as well, Charlie. I'm exactly the same. Yeah.
Oh, right.
I'm gonna have a sulk this week that Ings didn't play.
Yeah. I thought like, I've got Mings and I've got Ings in my team. And I thought, well, early on it was like Mings onto Ings all the time. You hear it all the time. So Mings was getting assists, and Ings was getting the goals. I think that was great. The points coming in. Now I've got two players who don't score any points anymore.
And Mings himself had been dropped for the start of this game, and only got off the bench simply because Villa had a player sent off for denying a goal scoring opportunity, which is the same thing happened in 3 games this week, where you can be 30 yards out and you can be denying a goal scoring opportunity for wrestling with a player and bringing him down. Johnny Evans got a yellow for it from Michael Oliver yesterday. The lad at Man City was shown a straight red for an identical collision or wrestling match, whatever you want to call it, which seemed to be rather bizarre, but it's one of them. That went to VAR. And Laporte was just unlucky. But it's that, again, the lack of consistency. And then today, the same thing happened for Villa. And it was as if the refs had all had a little chat last night on via Zoom. They'd been on Zoom and said, "Oh, look, lads, we're going to get slaughtered for this. We need to be consistent." And so today they decided to send somebody off, and he didn't deserve it. You don't deserve to get sent off for stuff like that. It's a yellow card. Let's move on.
Was that the game where just a half second before the guy actually took the other guy out?
Yeah, and that's
the one. He's the one who should have got the. Yeah. That was so violent. I was like, oh my! That's when you can knock out teeth or crack a man's skull like that. Yeah. That was vicious.
Absolutely. But they missed that. I don't even think he got any. There was nothing. I can't remember if he got carded or not.
He got a yellow. That was it. And then but it was on the same motion with that. The one with the guy got the red. So it was like, the wrong guy got the red. It's like
totally.
Wow.
Totally.
So on the weekend of Halloween, the referees have had a horror.
Hey,
you've had some shockers of the results. Like City getting beat at home by Crystal Palace. Who's seen that coming? I know they went down to 10 men, but come on, City should still be holding their own against Crystal Palace at home.
You would have thought so as well.
You know what? Well done, Crystal Palace.
I think that's the other thing, Stephen. I think we've got to congratulate Palace and also Patrick Vieira as well. I was very critical of him at the start of the season. I didn't think he had the potential to do anything with Palace because they'd lost a lot of experienced players. Yeah. He has decided if they're going to get beat, they're not going to get beat by much. And the way he set up yesterday was to cause as much of a problem for City and their pressing game. And I was watching the highlights of the game last night, and what was amazing was how organised they were, not just in a back four, but also the midfield four had all stepped up. And basically, we're not allowing City that pressing game. Their midfielders seemed to be ahead of City, and it was just like it was as if it had caught City on the back foot. And I wondered at one point if anybody was watching that who is looking at how you can kind of unpick how City play. There was a little bit of a clue, and I think I'd be interested to see if United play a similar system next week as to what they played yesterday, and try to do the same thing that Palace did, because City just had no space to pass it to, and yeah, they were unfortunate with the red card. They had a goal chalked off that was offside, but if that had counted, you'd have thought maybe the game would have gone on and City would have won.
Yeah, City I don't see United doing that job.
I don't. I can see. I can see City unpicking them. I can see City unpicking them and putting the same amount of Liverpool put past them. So,
Man United are a bunch of wonderfully individually gifted players. They're not a team, not a unit. They don't work together. They don't know how to operate together. So I don't see them closing down as a City. They try to do it with Liverpool, closes down, but it'd be one man going to close down and everyone else would be sat over here. You've got to attack as a team and close down as a team. I don't see them doing it. So I think I think City will be wanting to come out and make a mark next week after getting beat at home against Crystal Palace. They're going to want to make a mark next week. I don't see.
Well, I gotta be taken off. It is about to begin the trick-or-treating time over here in the States. So
yay!
I got some people coming over. We're gonna walk with them with the little ones, and we're gonna have some trick-or-treating fun, hopefully. But yeah, so just wanted to say,
go scare everyone with your Liverpool hat.
Let's keep Keita. Let's keep Keita. Keep Keita out for a couple of more weeks. He's been too tired. So when you finally do get the LFC, that's my 2 cents. Keita out. He needs to take a break. He needs to get up to speed. He's too slow, too tired. Yeah. All right, guys. I will see you guys next week.
I'll see you next week, Charlie. But for any hats, Halloween. What we'll do is we'll get you a proper hat for Halloween next year. We'll get you an Everton 1 cent over. Don't worry about
it. All right, guys. I'll see you later.
All right, take it easy, Charlie. Bye. Yeah, so
brilliant. Now, it's probably a good time as well, Stephen, because I think as well, I think we've looked at some of the teams who have underperformed this week. We've spoken in the past about Brighton. And I've got to say, there was a time in the Liverpool game yesterday. I was listening on the radio, and Liverpool were 2-0 up. They scored a third, which was then disallowed for an offside, or it was a handball. Handball, I think it was against Mane.
Handball. It was right. It was.
It was a correct decision. But from there, Brighton seemed to just switch on, and to be honest, they were really good value for money for their draw at Anfield yesterday. And I know Klopp said it felt like a bit of a defeat in only getting a point, but I think we're going to find this more and more with teams like Brighton and especially with West Ham. West Ham look as if they could go anywhere and create a problem for any team at the top of the league.
Yeah.
And I think we've spoken about nearly everybody except Leicester, because Leicester are the team, for me, that really disappoint. And I don't know. It just seems to be odd, because Rodgers seems to be the manager. Rodgers seems to be linked with the Newcastle job, the Arsenal job, the Man United job, and you're thinking, hang on a minute, he's not actually setting the world alight at the minute at Leicester, and they're being unpicked by teams, and I don't know. Just feel there's a real groundswell certainly between Brighton and West Ham as actually getting into those European places this season, and. We certainly can't rule out.
Yeah, but I was impressed with Brighton.
I was.
Liverpool hats off, and the obviously disappointment of getting the draw. But I thought Brighton deserved the draw. I thought Liverpool switched off. Our midfield, like Charlie alluded to, Keita. For me, I still don't know what Keita does. Yeah. Really, he'll do something greater than something really woeful. Most of the time, just not even be involved. Jones yesterday was. You might as well play 10 men, because Jones wasn't involved. He just was. He kept being missing in the middle of the park. Brighton won the middle of the park. Won the battle of the middle of the park when he upped the gear and he went for it. They won the battle of the middle of the park, and that's how they got the 2 goals. That's how they got they got the draw.
Yeah.
Liverpool need to really go and have a look, right? So if Fabinho's not playing, we look like we've got coals in the back. Yeah. So Liverpool needs to now go, well, if Fabinho's not playing, who do we play? Because Jordan Henderson, he's not the type who'll just sit there and do what Fabinho does. He can do it and work hard and really put really good shift in. But he's not going to sit there like Fabinho does and do the challenges and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Milner hasn't got the, he's fit, he's looked after himself, but he hasn't got the legs as he used to have. So for me, we need to go, and I'll be honest with you, after yesterday's game, my Christmas wish list had an attacker on there. I've now put a midfielder on there. I want us to go and get a midfielder and attacker in January if we can. Yeah. Because we need to shore that up and have strength and depth in them areas. I think with Liverpool, we're obviously a great team. We can go on and win the title. There's no doubt about that. So can City, so can Chelsea. But I think with Liverpool, we just got little bits of chinks of where the strength and the depth just isn't quite there. So when Fabinho goes out, the quality coming in isn't quite the same. In fact, there's a bit of a drop. Curtis Jones is one for the future. He's not one for now. And also, he's not a defensive-minded midfielder anyway. He's more of a midfielder to get the ball and run at the defenders and create that link between the two. But Jones was just completely off the boil yesterday. Completely off the boil.
But you're going to get that with young players though as well. It's going to be games, like it or not. That's possibly the pressure cooker of being a Premier League footballer. And if you are a young lad, it's really difficult to pick up the pace of some games, and it just doesn't happen. It's I was thinking as well, because you had that, was it the lad who's gone to Southampton? Was it Minamino?
Yeah, he went to Southampton on loan.
And he's the same. It's the same as Peter, though, isn't he? It's just he doesn't have that physical presence, and he doesn't have the attacking or the defensive presence to actually make a difference when in a game, and it's probably similar to City yesterday as well. In a game that you need somebody to take the game by the scruff of the neck, and I think Henderson's possibly on. He's not totally 100% fit because he's been out for a while, and that's where Henderson's role when you won the league is, where he could take a game by the scruff of the neck and actually find space for Salah or for Mane and to set something up when nothing's happening for you. And at the minute, the one team that seemed to be just eking out a result when it appears as if they're not playing tremendously well, it seems to be Chelsea. And again, this week, they've been, they weren't firing on all cylinders. They're playing against Newcastle. Were well organised for an hour, but couldn't sustain it. And then Chelsea just picked them apart a little bit. But it ends up with a defender scoring twice. But you're ending up with a team that has been, for all people don't particularly rate him and actually wanted him out of the club at Chelsea, was Jorginho. He took that game yesterday by the scruff of the neck. He made something happen. He made a difference in that midfield. And I think that's the type of player that Liverpool are looking for.
Yeah, definitely.
Just driving a result where it's maybe not your day. Yeah. And I think that's, you can have all the fancy Dan footballers, but if you've not got somebody who's got that ability to just sort of create space and to create like Gerrard was famous for doing it for Liverpool.
Yeah, grabbing the game from the scruff of the neck and dragging it. Liverpool don't have that. They have a great team ethic, where they all chip in and do it. Yeah. So where when Steven Gerrard was doing it, it was Steven Gerrard. He was the star player, and we needed them to do it. We haven't got it, and I'd say most of the time we don't need it because we have such a great team ethic and working for each other. But sometimes when you got games like you did yesterday, and I'm not taking anything from Brighton, I thought Liverpool looked leggy. At times, in Midland Park, we just didn't have the right quality there. That quality had dropped. So, you do need them players to come in and get that strength and depth and stuff like that. And I'll be honest with you, after the first, 10 games now, Chelsea have impressed me with the sheer grit that they put into games. But one thing I need to see from Chelsea before I start putting them into like the favourites for the title category is I need to see them go on a couple of bad results and see how they respond from that.
Yeah.
Because it's going to happen. It happens to everyone in any season. It happens, and then it's about the response. When Liverpool won the league a couple of seasons ago, You know, it's easy to think, oh, we've just absolutely demolished everyone every week, and that's what we've done. We didn't. There was actually weeks where we struggled, you know what I mean, and lost, and then got back into it and responded to it. So I'd like to see. I think Chelsea have got it in them to respond in the right way.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And Nick, I just think it's yeah. I've just put a message back to Nick as well. So I think let's see what a difference the next week brings, because actually we'll be sat here next Sunday, and if Everton have beaten Spurs, I'd be delighted, but I can't see it.
That's what this show's about, though, John, isn't it? That's what we've set it up for.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, you gotta come on, have your moan, come on, have your gloat, and you know what? Just come and have your moan, and we'll talk through it and get you through the problems, Nick. That's what we're here for. See you next week, fella. See you next week.
Thanks for joining us, Nick. Appreciate it, because it's been a torrid 24 hours for any Spurs fan.
Yeah, and I'm glad it was, because I didn't have to talk too much about Liverpool this week. But you know what? I want to just stay on the Liverpool game, actually, because there's something I want to say, because I think Brighton, you know, Liverpool 5 against Watford, 5 against United, you know, back down to earth. Look, you know, this is the Premier League. This is what it's all about. This is why we love it. This is why it's the best league in the world, the biggest sport in the world. And that's why that's the exact same reason. That's the reason what Brighton showed yesterday is the reason why it is because you might have all these star players, you might have all these great team ethic, and you might be getting these big, massive wins. But hey, we're going to show you exactly how hard you're going to fight for it this year.
Absolutely.
And you know what? Fair play to Brighton, fair play to Graham Potter, because he's done a magnificent job there at Brighton. Considering last season they were playing well, they just weren't getting the result, and they just about staved off relegation. You remember? And then now after 10 games, you could say, well, they could compete for European spots here, John. This is where we could see here with Brighton at the end. West Ham, who we play again next week. We're away to West Ham next week.
Ooh, tasty game that.
It is, and I'm thinking, John, do you know what? Is that our first defeat of the season? Yeah. Very possibly. I wouldn't put it past David Moyes to do that to us, to be honest with you. But I can see, I can see West Ham causing us a hell of a lot of problems next week.
Yeah.
They just won, 4-1 against Villa, away to Villa.
Yeah.
They're pumped. They're in a nice little groove this season, West Ham. You know, and I tell you what, they could be fancying the chances for that Champions League spot, John.
I think they'd be good value for it. And Moyes has got the footballing acumen to actually put a team out that's going to help him to achieve that goal. And you know, so underrated. You know, and as an Everton fan, you know, I loved his time at Everton. He probably stayed longer than he should have. But some of the way he was treated, it was particularly when he was at United. If United had kept hold, of him, I still feel United would be in a better, much stronger shape now than they actually are. And you know, I think that's going to be the one that probably in the annals of history. You know, it'll probably take 10, 20 years' time. That sacking of Moyes was probably the wrong thing to have done, because they've spent a load of money after Moyes, and it's cost them a hell of a lot of money. Yet, if they'd have persisted and actually allowed the club to go through that grieving process after Ferguson, they would be. I think they'd be in a much better place. And I still think they don't look. You know, I still think they're in a false position in the league in some respects for some of the performances they put in. Yeah,
it was a thankless task to take over from Ferguson.
Yeah.
I thought Moyes was. It's got similarities, parallels with what's going on with Spurs at the minute. Do you know what I mean? All right, can't put Spurs in the same bracket as United as it was then, or Ferguson. But what I mean by is, a manager who's done well with a team within the league and got to that level, but hasn't got the experience on the step up, you know. So, and then he didn't give him much time. And, you know, it was Van Gaal, Mourinho, spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds.
Yeah.
Still didn't work. And this is why I sort of understood Gary Neville's argument when Souness and Carragher was on Sky Sports saying to him, you know, he's got to go. He's not the right manager. But like he said, we've done it. Who do we get in? The best. Mourinho was the best manager in the world at the time.
Yeah.
We got him in. It didn't work. So you gotta think, right? That's actually sense. Let's have a look to see what works. So for me, I know Nuno is gone. He's not surviving tonight.
Yeah.
And I feel for him. And I think he had a good shout.
I do as well.
But I just think 10 games, knowing full well that it's the players who are to blame here as well. The board, not making the right decisions. The manager, changing the manager is not going to help anything at Spurs at the minute. No. And I think that's what they done wrong at United as well with Moyes and treated him badly because he didn't have the experience at that level. But you know what? Back him. Give him the money. If you just give him the money at the time and let him have 2, 3, maybe 4 transfer windows, then judge your manager. That's when you should be judging your manager, after 3 or 4 windows.
Absolutely.
No. But we'll see what happens. Right, I think we've covered almost everything, haven't we, dear John?
I think we have. It's been a fantastic week of football once again, and just see what Monday Night Football brings with Everton and Wolves, and I know we're back onto
international week next week.
Oh, we've got the next week. We've got some classic fixtures for talking about next week. We've got. I'm trying to find. See, looking at me, my computer's gone to sleep.
Next week, John?
No, it's the week after.
Oh, right, okay. I thought it was next week.
We've got the Manchester derby at 12:30. We've got.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Look forward to that one. It's like one of them now. You don't want to win on that one.
I know.
Historically, I'd be like City all the way, but now I'm thinking, well, I don't know. A draw will do me on that one.
Yeah. Now, and then obviously Everton Spurs on Sunday, Leeds Leicester, and then West Ham Liverpool. It's going to be lots to talk about this time next week as well. So I hope everybody can join us for that.
I'm fearing that West Ham game. I'm a bit nervous for that one. Away to West Ham, playing well. I think that could be Liverpool's first.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nice. Anyway,
good stuff.
Thanks for joining, everyone. Thanks for getting involved in the chat, and we'll see you next week.